Thank you very much. That's going to go poorly. All right, are we ready to go? I am I'm late to everything, but I like when things start on time. So, first of all, I would like to see how many people attending here are current volunteer coordinators or volunteer managers. Awesome. How many people have been doing it for less than a year? How many people have been doing it for more than 5 years? Yes, you're my people. So I have been a volunteer coordinator for, I think like 8+ years now. And I have attended a lot of these, something life-changing, and oh my God, this is gonna make everything so perfect. This is not one of those presentations. This is going to be very much walking you through how my program works. It does work. We have a good program. We have a full program. And hopefully you will get some little pieces from that that you can take back and that will help you at your center. I'm a person who very much, when I think of something, I need to ask it right now. I need to know what the answer is right now. So if you think of something, please feel free to ask. If you have a story to share, though, I'm going to ask you to wait till the end, and then we'll kind of open it up and talk about what you do at your center, what has worked, what has been a catastrophe, because we've all had both. So we'll see what we can do. So as I said, my name is Brett. I'm an instructor, and I'm a volunteer coordinator. This is me in a nutshell. It's my family. My mom is an occupational therapist. My brother has a disability. My sister is now an occupational therapist. So I really grew up in the disability world. I didn't realize that not everybody was comfortable with that. I didn't realize that not everybody goes into a room and is like, "Ooh, can I fit a wheelchair through there?" Like that was just part of my norm. So that is something that I have had to learn coming into teaching volunteers, is that not everybody knows, but you know. I started writing with the Girl Scout troop when I was 10, and our lessons cost $3. It was awesome. Then did regular school and whatnot. I was on the K-State equestrian team. I took a semester off. My parents cried. They're like, "You have to go to college." And I'm like, "I'm going to. I just need a semester." Went and I was a groom for Todd Menicus. He's a professional show jumper. That is like a whole other world, but it was really, really neat, and I learned a lot. So I graduated from K-State. I have a degree in wildlife biology, and I use that never. So I went and I got a cosmetology license. So I was then a hairstylist for a few years. I had my kids and I didn't want to work full time, so I started out actually as a part-time volunteer coordinator for a hospice. It is much, much easier to find volunteers for therapeutic riding than hospice. So like when I switched, it was easier for me. I had a friend that called me because she knew that I was doing that, and she's like, "So my company has this therapeutic riding center and we're looking for a volunteer coordinator and I think it'd be perfect, and then we'll pay for you to become a therapeutic riding instructor." And I'm like, "Ah." So I've been doing that. I've been at 2 different centers. Both of them were PACs. Been really fortunate to be able to have awesome mentors and a good learning experience. So these are my babies, because I always like to see other people's horses and pets. It was originally entitled My Loves, and my husband was proofreading it, and he's like, "Well, But if you ask my kids, the black dog, her name is Biscuit, and if you ask my kids who my favorite is, like of my children, they'll tell you Biscuit. So I'm sure like many of you, I have Angel. She's a retired therapeutic riding horse that just ended up at my house. Donkey is Donkey. His name is Donkey. And then the 2 halflingers in the middle are in the works. That was a gift from one of my riders' grandparents. And he's like, "Oh, you like halflingers? I have halflingers." And he came and dumped them, and I love them. So that's Claire and Charlie. And then the really old beagle is Murdoch, and he sleeps 23 out of 24 hours a day. So that's kind of me in a nutshell. So from the beginning, be clear, be honest. And that's why I told you that I'm not going to change your life, because be clear and be honest in everything that you do. You need a website. Hopefully all of you have a website. Does everyone have a website for their center? Don't use Facebook. Use Facebook, but you also need a real website. There are lots of free ones out there. They're pretty easy to get through. You get a website. Make the volunteer part predominant. Put it on the front page, not just like a drop down. It needs to say, "We accept volunteers." It's right there. There's a link to your application. Put lots of information on there. This was something that I learned the hard way, and then I just kept going in and adding to our website. The more information that you have on there, the less time that you spend on the phone, and the less time that you spend responding to emails, because it's already there. Also, the majority of my volunteer applications come after business hours when people can't call and ask you. So if it's already on there, you're right there.
Something to suggest, anytime somebody asks you a question, put the answer on your website and send them the URL.
Yes. Also, be a brand. And this is great if you're just starting a website. Put your logo on it. Put your logo everywhere. And then don't change it. Pick a good one and keep it so that people recognize who you are. Once you get your website, or if you already have one, get an online application. It will save you gobs and gobs and gobs of time rather than hand putting in everybody's information. So we use Salesforce, which I'm going to talk about later, and then Form Assembly links with Salesforce. So you create an application in Form Assembly, it automatically puts all the volunteers' information into Salesforce. So lovely. Erin Bevington is downstairs in the exhibitor hall. She does Salesforce specifically for therapeutic riding centers. So, and she's very nice. All right, so be clear. What do you need volunteers to do at your center? Not what do they do at some other people's centers, or what do they want to do? What do you need them to do? Make sure that's clear on your website. Make sure that that's clear when you talk to people. Make sure that your other staff know that and your other volunteers know that. One place that I worked, they wouldn't let people paint. They didn't want other people to paint. And I get that because some people are very messy painters. So don't put just general building maintenance like on your website. Put, we like people to come dust, or, be very specific what you want. Videos and pictures. People are not familiar with therapeutic riding. They type in, I want to volunteer, I like horses, here we go. So they need to know what they're going to need to do. This also saves you, I guess, in turnover. So if they know what they're signing up for before they even come out, that keeps your training so that your retention from training to your program is much higher. Don't be afraid to ask for a commitment. This was something that used to really scare me because I thought I was going to scare other people to say, hey, we have 16-week sessions. I need you to sign up for the whole 16-week session. I take people that can't do it the whole time, but I don't say that on the website. I don't say that in the training. I say, we need you 1 hour a week for 16 weeks. The scheduling thing, and this is less for you all because you probably know, and more for like EDs and board members. And it's okay to say no to volunteers. If you don't need a group, don't let groups just keep coming out because they don't have anything to do. So the same thing holds true with timing. If you're not open on weekends, put that on your website so that as people are looking for times and hours, and if they can only volunteer on websites, they're not going to spend 10 minutes filling out your application if they're only available on weekends and you're not. Repeat yourself. Say things over and over. People, especially during the training, are just so impressed with your barn and they're so happy to see horses and they love everything. So you just have to say the same things over and over and really get it through to people. And then tell them again. And then give it to them on a sheet of paper. All right. When you first talk to your volunteers, whether it's on the phone or at the training or via email, I do almost everything in email, be very honest with them of what you need. A lot of volunteers want to, I shouldn't say it like that. A lot of people will contact you that just want to come and pet horses. We don't need that, and they need to know that. People pay for our services, so we're not going to give it to you for free when you're not the population that we serve in the first place, okay? Again, it's okay to say no. If you are full, like this session, I actually have a couple spaces open, but last session, I had 137 spots for volunteering, and I had 0 openings. So I just canceled all my trainings, because if I have a training and then they can't volunteer for 6 months, they're not gonna be my volunteer. So I just canceled all the trainings, and I said, look me up next session, okay? You also have to know if that person is going to be a good volunteer fit for your program. And if they aren't, refer them somewhere else. So going back to being specific and what it entails to be a sidewalker, to be a leader. If someone is unable to walk for 45 minutes, they're not gonna be okay in your program. But maybe they would be okay dusting your stalls. I have a volunteer like that. She tried, she wanted to be a sidewalker, she just couldn't do it. She has a issue with one of her legs. But she comes in and she cleans stalls, and she's awesome at that. So have other options in your facility for the right person that you want to be around, but also know other places that are around if you're full and you want to refer them to other things. Where's the rest of that? No, you don't. Nope. Yeah, it's not. Okay, let's see if the next time works. Ooh, I went too far. Going back. Maybe it'll work this time. Nope. Okay. No, that's why I was like squinting and doing this. What? Oh, shoot. Oh, well. Okay. People inevitably are going to ask, how do you find volunteers? It is hard. It is hard. So word of mouth, make sure that your volunteers, your board members, your riders and their families know that you're looking for other volunteers. Tell them to tell people what you do. Get on or get into college volunteer fairs or job fairs. Resource fairs are actually great places to find volunteers. Even though you're going there to find writers, you can find lots of volunteers from resource fairs. In our area, all of the Catholic schools require 30 hours per semester of volunteering, so those are a great place. One thing that I've done that's really fun is bring a friend week, and your volunteer brings somebody with them. They don't volunteer, but they get to go backstage. They get to go in the stalls and see the horses and stuff before and after class. So that was pretty fun. Of course, social media, get yourself on Facebook, Instagram, have people following you. Logo wear, this goes back to being a brand. Have your staff in shirts that have your logo. Have your volunteers in shirts. It is a cost, and maybe you can find a sponsor to cover it, but I have people like stop me at the grocery store. I've had people hand me cash, like not at work. Like I want to make a donation because I was wearing my vest with my Heartland logo. So dress your people. Presentations, if you can get out there and do Rotary Club, schools, Pony Club has people present, any of those things, just so people know your name, they know that you're looking for volunteers. I had an anatomy professor at the college by us that would plug me at the beginning of the year. I don't even know how it related to anything except that he liked our program, and I would always get kids from his class. So just the more you talk to people. And then just making a flyer, again, branding yourself, getting it up places. Okay, training. I'm sorry, I've been between the airport and the airplane and then all this filtered air, my throat is like killing me. So limit your number of attendees. I used to try to get as many people as possible. But you're gonna have much better volunteers if you have a group of like 9 to 12 than if you have a group of like 25 to 30. They're gonna show up and they're gonna be better prepared for class than if you have this whole big group and they're all only like half listening. Have a handbook, email it to them ahead of time. My handbook is 14 pages. I think honestly that it's a little long, but every time I go to edit it, I'm like, oh, but that's important and that's important. So I send it ahead of time because I don't have time to go over 14 pages when they're there. And then I print some off to have in hand that day. Most people don't take them, so I just reuse them, save on costs. But it's really important. And at the end, if anybody wants to email me, I'm happy to share our handbook, and you can literally just put your logo on it. It's fine. Have a visual. I have a PowerPoint presentation for my volunteer trainings. Flip charts work. Just having pictures. One of the best things that we did at our facility is like you walk in the lobby, and it's lined with huge photos, like those canvas things. And yeah, it was a little pricey, but every barn tour, no matter what time they come, even if there's not a lesson, I have photos. When volunteers come in, I'm like, this is what we're gonna be talking about. This is someone doing it correctly. So have visuals. Have your liability waivers and name tags. I only learn people's names if I can see them. Helps. Review the jobs and expectations from this training. Everybody wants to know what all they can do at the barn. What can I do? Well, you have to do this, and you have to be good at this, and you have to show me that you show up before you can do anything else. This is the sidewalker training. You're going to be a sidewalker for a session, and then we'll talk, okay? This is not my daughter, but she looks just like my daughter, and I love her so much, and she's so cute. So I went through and I made the presentation, and she was in like 7 slides, and I was like, oh, okay. If you can keep it moving, it's nice to let the new potential volunteers introduce themselves, and you learn a lot about what they know and what they don't know. Like you'll get the application and it says horse experience, and they're like, oh, tons, I have tons. And then they're talking and you're like, you don't have tons. Assume that they know nothing. And this continues even after they've been your volunteer for a long time. You're gonna be better off if you just over-explain things. Better off in that you'll get it working in the way your facility is. The thing is, we use a lot of language that other people don't know. And I think we just forget that other people don't know these words or these terms or these letters. So just make sure you're over-explaining everything. Of course, you're gonna go over your emergency procedures. I like to give actual real life things that have happened in our center and how we dealt with it and how I would have dealt with it better if there was something else that would have gone well. And then I also say, but that doesn't happen very often. So, but let them know. At this time, people are really excited at trainings. They're like, yes, I'm here and I wanna help. Start now planting the seed for your fundraisers, for your other events, for whatever need you have, whatever ask you have right there, so that they can be thinking of that. And if like it ends up that their schedule never works out to come and work in a lesson, but maybe then they come back and they help you with your fundraiser. Explain how you work. So I do almost total emails. I hate it when people call me on the phone. I text and I email. I also have a great deal of volunteers, and I can't text everybody. I don't have enough time. So I like to just send vast mass email schedules. That's what works for me. I'm really good at Post-its. I have Post-its all over. We have a calendar hanging right by the computer where the volunteers log their hours, so people can write what days they're not available, what days they're not coming. So that way I don't have to keep track of all these emails or whatever. They just write them right on there. And that brings me to logging their own hours. So if you have Salesforce, you can also have the volunteers log their own hours. And I tell them that in the training. I don't track anybody's hours. If you need them because of school or because you owe community service or whatever, If they're not in here, they didn't happen and I'm not gonna sign it. You have to log your own hours. But that also behooves you because then when you're applying for grants or you just wanna look good to your board or whatever, you can say, look how many volunteer hours we have. Okay. Have trainings when you need volunteers. That doesn't always work because you're having class when you need volunteers. But if you, again, aren't open on weekends, does it make the most sense to hold the training on a weekend? You want to hold it on times that you need volunteers. I actually flip-flop, so I'll do like one training I'll do on an evening, a weeknight evening, and then I'll do the next one on a weekend just because maybe Wednesdays don't work for everyone, but it helps if you can do that. Try to keep them to 2 hours or less. You lose people. They just quit learning. They can't take any more in, especially if it's all new information. My scheduling, it works for me. I send out at the beginning of the session our entire schedule. So it has the riders, it has the horses, and it has, of course, the times. I let people sign up for when they want to ride, and then I plug them in. And then that's their regular time that I leave until the end of the session. There's always weeks where somebody can't come, so then every Friday I send out the next week's entire session, or entire schedule. And then on Monday I email again after everybody has sent me all their things that I screwed up or that they forgot to tell me or whatever, and I'm just like, okay, now I need 3 people on Tuesday and then I'm good. So it's total two emails each week, Monday and Friday. But they know my routine, so make sure your volunteers know your routine.
And do you schedule for all of the instructors?
Yes, yes.
How many instructors?
We have 4 instructors, and we do classes like Monday through Thursday, 4:30, 5:30, 6:30, 7:30.
What do you do if they call 10 minutes before the lesson? I'm stuck in traffic, I'm not going to make it. Or a half hour before lesson, I'm sick, I'm not going to make it.
So I tend to, well, not I tend to, I have barn staff. I have barn help who are trained volunteers who prefer not to be in class, but they are told, if we have an emergency, you're going to be doing this.
Volunteers too, are they back of the barn volunteers?
Yes.
Or are they paid staff?
They're back of the barn volunteers. Like they're pulling all the tack, pre-grooming the horses, that sort of thing. We also have 2 instructors on each night, and we flip-flop classes. So you work every other one. So if you need to, you can pull in another volunteer. I love this picture. This is our our indoor arena, and we constantly have hot air balloons that fly over, but it was like just the perfect thing. So anyway, yeah.
Before you move on, did you say that your volunteers sign up for their own time slots?
Just initially. So I have several volunteers who want to be with a certain rider or want to be with a certain horse. So I let them pick that. I let them ask for it. And then if I think it works, then I will.
That's going to be my question, if you have any riders with certain needs that might require a taller volunteer or
Yeah.
needs, how that would
Yeah.
work.
So I honestly only have probably maybe a third of my volunteers who like really specifically say, I want to work with Evan. And they've been working with Evan for 10 years. And so, you know, I put them in there. Most people just say, I can do Tuesday, 4:30 and 5:30, and then I put them in. But I want them to have that option of picking a horse and picking a rider. And then if it's not going to work, I say, well, let's try this. So,
That's what we've recently done at my center. We've asked them when are they available, and we'll assign them to like a writer, kind of send them to a team and try to keep those volunteers that have been volunteering together.
yeah.
But then we can pick and choose and fit good needs, a stronger leader, who needs a taller leader, sidewalkers, stuff like that. We can kind of pick and choose that and give them their assignment.
Yeah.
And it all fits in their availability.
Keeping teams are great, and we're going to get to that too. If you can do your training in your arena where you have class, it doesn't always work because sometimes there's class. That's the best because then it translates the best for people from training to class. But then also give a tour. This is the best time to say, yes, you can go here, no, you can't go here, and be really strict and specific, because then you won't have to go fetch people out of the pasture that they're not supposed to be in or whatever. My favorite thing is, this is probably the only time you will see this because you have to be with me to do it. Here's this room. And then I close the door. So just make sure that you're really specific in the beginning, and then you won't have to later. Why do we have trainings? Well, it's obvious. But besides training those volunteers, you should also be taking notes on them, like mental notes, written notes, whatever. How tall are they? Were they able to keep up with the horse that I put them with during training? Did they talk the whole time? So would they not go with this person? Were they not responding to my coaching in the moment? So gauge them right there. And that way, when you have them in a class, you can let that instructor know too. Like, hey, this person was a little timid about the horses. If you would introduce them to the horse as well before they go in class, that would be great. Okay. So my sidewalker trainings are about 30 to 40, well, they're typically 37 minutes of sitting down time. I've done a lot of them. I start out with the history of the organization, because again, a lot of people don't know what therapeutic riding is. They don't know why you're doing it. So the more you tell them, and like little snippets of fact, like for instance, Heartland used to be up in what is now a shopping center, and we got bought out and we moved down. People remember that stuff, and then they're going to go and they're going to tell their friends that weird little thing that you told them. Okay. You want to introduce, of course, yourself and your role there, and then also the other people. Even if they aren't there, tell them, okay, well, you may never see me again because I work Mondays and Tuesdays, and if you work Thursday, you're going to see Bonnie. Bonnie is one of the instructors. She does this, blah, blah, blah. So make sure they know who the other people are too. Go through your emergency procedures. They're not going to remember them. Tell them where they're posted, and just tell them to listen. I mean, honestly, the best emergency procedures are listening and following what your instructors say, because you guys know them, we know them. But make sure that you do show them and tell them where they're posted. Helmet fitting and why we wear helmets, because you will get that one person that's like, well, I ride all the time and I don't wear my helmet. Well, that's great for you. Here's why we do, and you have to if you're here. Show photos again. Explain horses and their danger. My favorite thing is like when you have an adult, I guess it's not my favorite thing, and they go up and they're like sticking their finger in the horse's mouth, or they're just like standing behind them, and I'm like, oh, okay. This is a horse, and yes, he's a very good horse, and he's a therapeutic riding horse, but did you hear where I said horse many times? He's still a horse, and I can't control everything. So you go over the safety things. Again, assume they know nothing, and it will help you later. And then sorry, this is killing me. The way that I have restructured my trainings recently, and I really like it, and it has worked really well, is that I have my volunteers ride in the training. So I split them up, and I have 9 to 12 volunteers per training. And so I have my trained leaders there with the horses, and I have each potential volunteer take a turn as the rider, as the sidewalker, and as the offside sidewalker. They have turned into the program as much better volunteers than when I was doing it with a rider that I had just picked. So by being the rider and feeling the holds and feeling what does and what doesn't work, it made a huge difference. I really like it. Yeah.
How do you keep it safe and every single volunteer on a horse?
Mm-hmm.
Does that take a lot of time away from your training? Or do you find that some people are like, no, I won't get on there? Or do you find some people that are like, no, I'm not gonna put you on the horse?
I do ask if they're comfortable, and I've never had anybody say no. I've never come into where there was someone that couldn't get on one of our horses. So typically the people that volunteer to be sidewalkers are pretty close to they're fit people. I mean, they know they have to jog for 45 minutes or whatever, so it hasn't been an issue. I don't know. Did I see a hand? Oh. Oh, yeah. Are sidewalkers? No. Sidewalkers are in charge of riders. They don't even come in the barn until the rider is getting on the horse. Like, we make it really clear, because otherwise I have sidewalkers paying more attention and petting the horses and talking to the horses, and their riders are like off somewhere. Yep. So sidewalkers are for the riders. Okay. And that goes to reiterate the responsibilities of each team member. So my leaders are taking care of my horses. My instructors are taking care of everything. And my sidewalkers are in charge of the riders. They're in charge of the riders. They're in charge of the riders. The way we work is our lobby, they come in, and the riders and the volunteers all meet in the lobby, or the sidewalkers, and the leaders are in the barn, grooming the horses, tacking the horses, and then I have the barn help that also grooms and tacks the horses. Some of our riders tack, but we have them all come out as a group with their sidewalkers. So if a rider requires a sidewalker, they are never in the barn without a sidewalker. And really, our sidewalkers aren't in the barn without riders either. So leader training is, I try to have people sidewalk at least 2 months before I let them go through leader training, even if they have horse experience. Now, if they show up and they're awesome and you can tell that they're awesome, then I'll make them. But to really get to know our program and how we treat our horses, I try to have them do 2 months first. So in those 2 months, especially if they have other horse experience, I ask them to, if they're interested in the leader training, to come spend some time in the barn when they are not working in class. So if they're gonna work at the 5:30 class, they can come help the 4:30 class groom, but not the 5:30 class, because for the 5:30 class, they have to be ready for their rider. I have two mixed reviews, personal reviews in my head, let them also lead the horses around in the arena, like on off days if they wanna come out and lead around in an empty arena. I've let them do that, but it's very person by person. We have wonderful tacking stalls, and it's posted on the side of the wall in what order you do the grooming. So if you show your new sidewalker how to groom, and then you're gonna leave them, they have it, they can look at it right there. We don't have them pick the horse's feet, we just do all the horses when they come in. And that way they don't feel like they have to hunt you down all the time, and they don't feel stupid for asking something, and it's just right there, and they learn it. It's worked well. You want to spend most of your time on leader training in the actual arena. That's how people learn. We learn by doing stuff. We learn by screwing up. So get in the arena as soon as possible. You want to focus on the do's and less on the don'ts. So here is how we lead our horses. This is what we do here. If you don't do it there, don't talk about it. If they bring it up, you can say yes, but we don't do that here. Some people do that, and that's great. We don't do that here. Just talk about what you do. What you do in leader training, repeat it in class, and let your other instructors know what they're doing too, so that they can refer back to that. Remember, in leader training, and I said to have you stand right here? So make sure they're getting back there. The biggest thing, I think, in volunteer management is be flexible. If you have a sidewalker that's been sidewalking with you for a long time, and they like to sidewalk and they want to keep sidewalking, but you know that they are very good with horses and they have their own blah, 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 and you need a leader in a pinch, guess what? Here's my leader training. You walk on this side, you hold it, here's how you go through. There's nothing, you just have to have a leader training. It can be whatever, okay? So in a pinch, do what you can. Make your life easy by labeling things. So I know it's probably hard to see from there, but all of our saddles are labeled. All the English ones are E1 through, I think we have 22. They have little dog tags on the D-rings. All the Western ones are 1 through whatever. They have little dog tags on them. So our schedule just says the saddle, W, whatever, blah, blah, blah. The other thing is, if you do a generic label like that, like they used to all be named like names or like the name of the saddle. But then when you label where they go, if you get a new saddle and you have to rearrange all your labels. This way, all you have to do is change the dog tag. And dog tags are very cheap. So then each of our horses has their own side pole, they have their own bridle, and they're all labeled. And they also have the dog tags, they just hook right on the little buckles. So super easy. This is the outside of our tack room. It's just a board. This time it doesn't have a lot of information, but I always have the schedule up there. And then anything that they need to know, like we're not having class this week. And then my daughter comes and draws pictures, and those are fun too. She loves to come to work with me. So as we were saying earlier, relationships are the reason that people come to you and they stay with you. It could be the relationship with their rider, it could be the relationship with the horse, it could be the relationship with you. As I said earlier, like I moved from another center, I had volunteers that came, and they're volunteering at this center now. This group met at Heartland, but now the volunteers are married to one another, and they are so supportive of Mo. They're like, they go swimming with him on a different day, and they go to his family functions, and he comes to theirs, and they've just built this huge thing, and they are always there because of Mo. Know your volunteers' names, and make sure that your staff knows their names. There is nothing that makes me crazier than when people don't acknowledge the volunteers or don't know who they are. Like, why are you here? Well, I've been volunteering at this time for the last 5 years. I walk past your office every day. Come on, give them a hi. I do make name tags for everybody. And then I try to tell people, the instructors, like, okay, you've got a new person coming in. Kim is the blonde, and I don't know, Jeff has glasses, whatever, so that they can kind of pick them out and they don't feel awkward if I'm not there to introduce them. Try to keep teams together. I have volunteers that come to be with other volunteers, so try to keep teams together. Plan time in your day to talk to your volunteers and just hang out. And that's something that you will probably have to explain to your ED or to your board, or, hey, why are you in the barn for an hour? You're not instructing, you're not, what are you doing? But you need to build those relationships. You need to know things about your volunteers. You need to be able to talk to them and be friends with them. And they should do the same thing. Okay. Have jobs for people when they come out. People who sign up to volunteer want to help. So if you, again, be honest, be clear. If you don't need someone, tell them that. And then they can choose not to come out, or they can choose to come out and hang out, but tell them that you don't have a job if you don't have a job. If they're coming, have a job for them to do. Have a list of things that they can do. They want to work. I've done it. We used to have this really beautiful board that took me a really long time to make that had all the jobs and the days, and you could check it off, and it looked like the bathroom checklist, like on the stalls. Nobody used it. So it really comes down to, like, you have a list, and whether you have it written down or not, and then just tell people, like, I need to have the barn swept before we're done tonight. Can anybody help me with that? I do have like a random short list of barn jobs that's posted, but they're generally ignored, and it's easier if you just tell people. So, we have very certain things that we do in our barn a very specific way, or I know other barns that, like okay, our manure only goes here and the trash and manure can't go together. So you have to be really specific about that because of where we dump it. So things like that, like if you need your barn swept and you don't want the trash to get in there, tell them that before they start sweeping, okay? Or like we have one of those sweeper cats. Do you guys know what those are? Factory cats. Oh, it's awesome. It's like this big and it's a vacuum and you push it and it makes your barn beautiful. But it doesn't pick up hay. So you have to sweep the hay first and then it goes through. So like things like that, just tell people. It's called a factory cat, but we call it a sweeper cat. And they're really expensive. Somebody donated it. I think they're like $10,000 or something. Yeah. But it's so fun. That's weird. You wouldn't say that about your house, right? Oh, I got to sweep. One bad thing, okay, total tangent. It doesn't count your steps though. Like when you're pushing it and it's so hard because it's like self-propelled, but you still have to push and you get no steps. And you're like, I've been vacuuming for 15 minutes. Okay, anyway. So this goes to find out what individuals enjoy. So if they like to sweep, make sure you ask them to sweep whenever they're there, you know? We have some volunteers who love to turn horses out. We don't allow them to turn them out without us, but they'll hang around at the end of the night to turn horses out. So, you know, like find what people like, and then they're more likely to do it. And that way, when you have a crappy job that you need somebody to do, you're like, hey, if you do this, then you can help me turn horses out. Won't that be fun? So there you go. Back again to over-explaining things. One phrase that I use is, you probably already know this, but, so then you're not making it sound like you think they're stupid, or hopefully people won't get insulted. Make sure that you are coaching people in the moment. Like we do this all the time for our writers, but do it for your volunteers too. Like I don't remember things later. So if you came to me after the lesson and you're like, well, remember that one time that you were trotting and you kind of went like this? I don't. So tell them right then, you know, like, hey, can I have you hold just a little bit higher on their leg? Something like that. But tell them right then, okay? And then really, really be happy when people do things right, even if it's little. Obviously, I'm like a bubbly, this kind of person. So it's very easy for me. I'm like, oh my gosh, you guys did so awesome at that thigh hold. That's like natural for me, and it's not for everybody. But try to do it so that they know when they are doing it right. Yeah.
So what do you do with the person that you clearly tell 480 times later, you're literally telling them, and if they're a teenager, they get upset and stompy, or if they're an adult, they just can't get it.
I stopped scheduling them.
Okay.
Yep. Or I schedule them to do something else. Like if they're not working in class, and I just say like, it's not really working for you supporting this writer. I see that you aren't able to reach to do the thigh holder. I don't know. You kind of make stuff up like that, and then so I'm gonna have you work in the barn and pull tack instead. Are you okay with that? Or if they have a really sensitive personality, you can be like, you do such a great job helping us get ready for class. Instead of sidewalking, can I just have you be in the barn for these days? And just change their job. And then if they still suck, just kind of stop scheduling them. Yes.
I never ever thought I would fire a volunteer, but I've done it 3 times and it just really needed to happen. After many times,
Yeah.
lots of retraining and lots of heart to hearts, sometimes it just isn't working.
Yeah.
And I can't make it work.
And even if you're thin on people?
Yeah, especially if
If
you're
it's a safety issue, yeah. Are they gonna be,
So they're really not helping me.
right, yeah.
I'm not gonna miss them, actually.
Right, yeah. And you kind of then get the heartstrings, because if you're like, oh, I had this spot covered and it was no longer safe for that writer and I really need somebody to come in, can you cover this for me? Yeah. Look, I did it again. Be clear and honest with your needs. There's a theme here. So, at the beginning of our session, like I said, I set the regular, what I call the regular volunteer schedule, and then I put it in an Excel spreadsheet. You can copy and paste from Salesforce to do that.
Sorry.
You're okay.
On too quickly, when you were talking about firing volunteers, I was just curious, and anybody can answer. What if you run into a situation where now you have course leaders that may no longer be very good at their job? Whether it's because now they're a little bit older, they're not as, it becomes more of a safety thing that they were leaders for years and years and years, and now, for whatever reason, it's not a safety issue.
I have a couple of things. So, like, if you can switch the horse, and it depends on how. I don't want to say how much you like them, how much you like them being a volunteer. Like if they volunteer in your class, but then they also like build you things. You don't want to hurt that person.
Especially people that have been around a really long time.
Yeah. They usually know. And it is a hard conversation, but if you're honest and you're like, it seems a little harder for you to keep up with Ace. Can I try you with Aussie next week? Or can I try you in the barn? Because like our barn job is a lot more at your own pace. Like you've got an hour, as many horses as you can get groomed or tacked, and I try to move them around and do other things. Because first you want to have the safe situation. So if I can find somewhere else, then I try to do that. And sometimes they don't come back, and that sucks, but it is. And I actually have not had the pouty or teenage problem. So I've been really lucky. I have the parents of the teenagers that cause me issues. I don't respond or accept like applications and questions and things like that from parents of teenagers or college students. Are you kidding me? No. And it depends on the mood I'm in. Sometimes I tell them that, and sometimes I just ignore and ignore and ignore. Or like Boy Scouts that are going for their Eagle project and their parents email you, look up Eagles. No. So, same thing. Like if they aren't willing to make those steps and be responsible, do you think they're going to do it in class? No.
Yeah, we have those different designations as well. It's just kind of like that. It's hard to take them from once they get to a certain point or
Going
like, is this something you put in a handbook?
backwards.
You could be demoted?
Yeah.
Our people that have like their Alzheimer's and their memory loss, they're older, they get memory loss, and we've given them like overseeing jobs.
Mm-hmm.
Can you please watch the aisle, and if someone needs something, they don't have to leave the horse, they'll ask you.
Yeah.
And that works, and like you said, they know,
Yeah.
and sometimes the nudge too, can you sit here and maybe, if the parents have questions, you can let me know?
And sometimes they're embarrassed to tell you, and so if you bring it up, then they're like, yes, okay, I want to get through. I've got a few more slides and make sure we get through, and then we can chat some more. So Salesforce does not save your schedule from week to week. So that's why I do the Excel file. And then I'm going to go one and then, so this is kind of what Salesforce looks like. This is a snapshot. So you can copy and paste that into Excel, and then you can make that a PDF file and send that out to your volunteers. But Salesforce is like what I work in to schedule people, and it's a mass email server, and it's really super helpful. It doesn't auto-save, which is the love-hate part of it, and it doesn't have like a back button, like, where it erases the last thing you did. Those are the two things that like, whoosh. Okay. Oh, have you guys heard of Pulse SMS? Okay, so if your volunteers like to get texts, and sometimes that's the best way, like if you have to cancel class or whatever, and you need to get a hold of people. So Pulse SMS, I think it was like $10 for a lifetime subscription, and you link it to your phone number. It has to be an Android phone, and then you can type like on your computer. Yeah, I have tendonitis in my thumb, so it like saved my life. Yeah, and so it's like an instant message is what it looks like on your computer, but it is coming to their phone from your phone. So it's great. What is it? Okay.
Is that available on iPhone or is that?
She said Remind 101 is. What is it? Google Voice. Okay. Yeah. And we have a barn cell phone, so that way, like, if I'm not there and people are texting, like, I can't make it to class or whatever, then the other people are getting there. Verizon has I think it's Verizon. A nonprofit rate is like $50 a month, and we got a free phone, so it's not bad. Told you earlier, volunteers check their own hours, and don't overschedule people. Like, don't schedule them just because they want to come out. If you don't have something for them to do, don't schedule them unless they know that and they just want to come hang out. So people want to have something to do when they get there. Okay, so here's our Salesforce. This is what I post for volunteers. Oh, sorry, do you want me to go on? And then this is our tacking schedule. So remember I said all of our saddles are labeled like E whatever or W whatever. So they're just in here. We have their mount, we have the girth they use, the saddle pad they use, and then our tack room, everything is labeled with these same labels. So you can just walk right in. I have people who have never been at the barn, didn't go through a training, and they can still pull tack for me because it is super easy.
Did you do that in like your, I don't know how yours is set up, but I use Salesforce too. Like, did you do that as like a view with like your clients' records? And that's where you have that info, or is it like?
I don't know.
Okay. I don't know if it'll all set up different or how.
I think yes. I think it's a view, and I know that you have to have the sort number because otherwise they won't be in the right order.
Okay.
So like,
That's where I can, like,
yeah, it won't sort them by time. So you put in the sort field and then it will sort them by number.
Just a quick comment, we have something like this in our barn, and we know, like, handwritten out a little bit of what horses, with what rider, and what pack, and we also have the volunteer assignments, the regular volunteer assignments, and what role that they have with that, team, so, and that's right in our pack sheets, so they know right then and there who's with who, what pack goes with what, and if a sub comes in and they need a volunteer for this person, they know and can look up who that person is, what horse,
Yeah.
rider that they.
And that's what, this is on our, on the board outside of our tack room. And then I also, because the sidewalkers don't come in the barn, I have the sidewalker one in the lobby where with the helmets, because you have to have a helmet. So this has all of that. And then we put like tack notes, because like I said, we alternate, and then we have the barn help. So that way my barn help doesn't tack my 7:30 class, because that's part of our class. The class is that they tack their own horses. So we put that stuff on there as well. We're almost done. It really is the little things that keep people happy and keep people coming back. So know your volunteers, know your riders, know if they like their job, know if they like their, well, hopefully they like their rider. If they're not comfortable with that horse, I have some people that just don't want to be with certain horses. Personally, I can't do teeth grinding. Like, I just can't be with a rider that grinds their teeth. It makes me like puke. Oh. Anyway, so you got to know like those little things. And the same thing about your riders. If they can't handle being touched, don't put like, the super touchy mom with them or, things like that. Oh, the height, of course, for thigh holds and things like that. But it does make a big difference. And be flexible. I used to have this class on Monday that I couldn't get volunteers for the life of me. Like it was awful. Guess what? The kids' parents came to every single lesson. So if I didn't have enough sidewalkers, rather than cancel class, I asked Dad to step in sometimes. So, and they're gonna keep their kid on the horse. So that's it. So, if you guys have any questions or whatever. Oh, yeah. It's my name, BRETT, at HTR, like Heartland Therapeutic Writing, HTRmail.org. You're welcome. Yes, yes. Yeah.
So I'm a son that's 8 months old and had pretty rapid growth, and we're hosting like a volunteer retreat, we're calling it.
Uh-huh.
This is gonna be a friendly way to like let them give us feedback, but really for us to like time it out with them
Mm-hmm.
because we've gotten not really one. So has anyone done that guidance? Like it sounds like you do so much on the job coaching, which sounds really good.
We do, and we also did one of those retreats. We had a bunch of new staff come in, and so we like parlayed of what we wanted, and it was a huge change for some of the volunteers, and they didn't want to make the new adaptations, and I lost people, but it made the people that stayed better volunteers. So, say again. On any given week, I see about 75 individuals. On my email list, I have about 210, I think. And I really have quite a few people that come like once a month, or that aren't regulars, but they'll fill in when they can. Like there's a big hospital near, so I have a lot of nurses and things like that. So I actually don't do a lot. I used to, and it costs a lot of money to throw dinners and have parties, and the same 5 women came every time. So I quit, and I just really pay attention, and I say thank you every single time that someone is there, and I say thank you for doing X. I do like to bring like cookies and stuff like that, and we do like a friend raiser where we have a food truck night, and we buy their meals at that. And actually, the lady from the food truck ended up donating them, which was super awesome. But so we try at other things, like at our fundraiser, we feed people, but that's pretty much it. Nope. Nope. Yeah, I used to. I put so much effort into all this stuff, and then for like a year, I just didn't because my life went like crazy, and I was like, yeah, nobody has mentioned that I'm not doing that stuff. I am not doing it anymore. So I don't know. That's like backwards from what most people say, but.
Yes, so I wear too many hats at my center, and this is one I'm looking to find someone else for. But like, what would be like the top 3 qualities, in your opinion, that a good volunteer coordinator needs to have?
If you can find someone who is a cosmetologist, or no, I'm not kidding, or in like makeup or anything where they are talking to a server, sales, where they are used to talking to strangers and having that small talk all day long, those are the best. And other people that I've talked to that are long-term volunteer managers, several of them were cosmetologists, or yeah. So it's just, we like to talk to people, and it's easy. But oddly enough, like then I go to things with my husband and his business, and he's like, you didn't talk the whole night. And I'm like, I small talk all day. I don't want to anymore. I'm tired. So yeah, but those are good ones. And I also personally think it's nice to have instructors as volunteer. Like if you can make someone full-time by being an instructor and a volunteer manager, because then they really know the horses and they know why Ann can't be with Tex. And they know, that's a big help. And like the grading scale is great, but it has its limitations just in not the person not knowing the horses, not knowing why you would do that. I'm full-time, yes. We have 6, what? I'm an instructor as well, and I do fundraising. And I used to be the office manager too, but we just hired a new one. So I also wear lots of hats. But we have 2 full-time instructors who, like, I do those things, and then the other one is the program manager and the equine manager. And then we have a full-time facility. So we have 65 riders, and then we do, like, field trips. Naomi, that was in here earlier, the vaulting program is at our center, and so we do a couple other things.
Is it up to the instructors, once you get assigned volunteers to that riding that class, is it up to the instructors of that class to tell that volunteer the specific goals and how to specifically help that rider?
Yes, yes. We try to introduce each instructor or each new volunteer as an instructor to their rider. And so personally what I like to do is I will be like, Meg, this is Johnny. Johnny, Meg's going to walk with you today. So do you want to tell her how you like your thigh hold? Is it just at the trot or the walk? Even though I know the answer, but that way Johnny is telling them things like that. Or, yeah. And then we say it again in the arena.
Personal question, no math. Just curious if which or any of these jobs you do, are you paid?
Am I paid? Yeah. I'm a full-time employee. Yeah. It's getting better. It was about 55, and I cried a little bit, and then that's when we got the office manager, because you saw my kids, and I'm home Friday evenings, and that's like it. So, yeah. But.
I was kind of go back to your actual sidewalker training. You said you spend 37 minutes kind of sitting down.
Uh-huh.
Then you go out in the arena.
Uh-huh.
And then you regroup at the end, or are they done after the meeting?
We go out in the arena, and then I go through like the lesson, and everybody takes their turns, and then I tell them like, you are free to go, or if you want to come meet our horses, I'll take you back and see them. So usually it's like 2.5 hours. Most people want to stay, but then I just kind of let them leave, and I leave all the paperwork and stuff out so that as they're leaving, like I have sheets that say the days and the times of openings that I currently need to fill. So I have them write their names in any of those spaces and stuff as they kind of filter out.
Do you have a separate orientation and tour training?
No, I do it with the sidewalker training. We've done just like tours, but I've kind of found like with people's busy lives, like a few of them will come out and tour, but they'd rather just wait and do the training. So I offer tours if they want to come out before, especially if it's like a long time till the next training. But yeah, oh, shoot.
Maybe you said it before, but how often do you do your volunteer orientation training?
So at the beginning of the session, I set them up to be once a month, but then as I get full, I just start canceling them, and then I tell people like, it's gonna be next session before I'm full. Thank you very much. And I do tell people if I get full, because you'll have people that need hours that semester, or I also don't take people if they need more than 30 hours in a semester, because they're just not gonna be able to do it. So I tell them that from the beginning.
Leader training. I missed that.
It's later. I like people to work, it's a separate one. It is usually about 3 hours, honestly. And I do the arena part first. I hope that they learn to tack and groom just within lessons and coming early and working outside of that training, because it really is a lot to take in if you don't already know how to tack. But then we spend 2 to 3 hours in the arena
Just doing obstacles, just keep.
and going through the ramp and going through the ramp, and then we switch horses, and then we go through the ramp, and then it's, yeah, it's exhausting, but
It works.
the longer they're there, the better. And then you can see when people start to fizzle, and then you're like, let's go home. You can come back a different day. But the more time that they can spend without riders on them, or without whatever. Yep. If they can practice without a lesson happening, it's better. So, did you have another question?
How long are your sessions?
Like,
Are they like 10 weeks?
they're 16, so we do the semesters pretty much, and we do 16 and 16. We take this week off, and then we have a really big fundraiser where we put a floor down in our entire arena, and the whole barn becomes a party. And so we take 2 weeks off for that in the spring too. So it works out. You can go from August to May, 16 and 16. So, and then we do camp.
You mentioned a volunteer application that you have people fill out online. Do you review that, and then those people would be invited to a training? Is there certain requirements that you're gonna weed people out even before they come to training?
Not usually. I mean, I look them over, but I don't like tell people not to come or whatever. Usually they will weed themselves out. But once they fill out that application, they are on our potential volunteer email list. So then I can just email them, here's all the upcoming trainings. And part of it, they'll weed themselves out if they just can't make it like time-wise, because if they can't make it to a training, then they're not going to be able to make it to class. And then with all those videos and with the handbook, and they look through it, and if they don't think they can make it, people start to weed themselves out, I guess. But yeah. Are we good? Okay. Thank you guys very much. Yeah.